And welcome back to Southeastern 14, another edition of Bets and Ball Games with Edwards and Greeson. I am Brian Edwards. He is Jay Greeson, joining us from the Chattanooga Free Press headquarters. What's going on, Jay?
Just enjoying this beautiful day, getting ready for Thanksgiving. Hope everybody has made enough extra money to afford the really nice turkey and not have to skimp and get the canned ham.
That's right. And before I forget, on that note, we're going to be either going to record on Tuesday or Wednesday of next week due to the holidays. So look for an early recording. Don't have that set in stone yet. What we do have set in stone is that the last of the major pro sports leagues are off and running, including or in college basketball as well. Bet Online remains your top spot for all your live betting action and contest. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL in full swing. Bet Online is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. All the hoops betting action, along with every sport, available at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to Bet Online today, and remember to use our promo code BLEAV in all caps. That's BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. All righty. Man, this football season has flown by. We are going into week 12. We've got
They all
rivalry
do.
week.
They all do. They all do.
They do. You are correct. They all do. All right. Since it is tonight, and we'll probably have this edited and released very late afternoon or early evening. Let's talk about that Auburn team in hoops before we get to the pigskin. And I know we both even hit on it already, and then we hit on it in the green room, if you will, that we liked the over. Uh, without even seeing the number. And I was thinking upper 140s, low 150s, and we get a 143. So we are both on the over, correct?
Absolutely, we are. And my afternoon plays of the day comes out at 5 o'clock. It's an email through the Times Free Press you can sign up for. Uh, but that will be one of my picks. I'll have three picks. We'll talk about all the college football games for the weekend. I'll have three picks tonight. One of them's college football. I think the Bengals play well, but I love Auburn for a multitude of reasons. One, Bruce Pearl's style is they're 10 deep. They're going to press. They're going to play 94 feet on with the ball in their hands or whether they're guarding you. And that pressure does a multitude of things. One, it allows the other team to shoot an inflated number of free throws because they foul a lot. Two, there's a lot of transition opportunities. And three, there's a lot of offensive rebound opportunities for both teams because pace allows for smaller numbers on each side of the floor. And yeah, Auburn is streaky from behind distance, but I think Auburn right now, early on, you remember how we talked about when we first started doing this back in late September? I'm on LSU over until I just can't convince myself. Like maybe Auburn over gets to like 162 at some point. And it's just going to say, all right, now I need them to shoot well. At 143, I don't need them to shoot well. They're going to get to 74 points, and they may lose not shooting well. So, no, I'm all over Auburn over for the foreseeable future.
Yes, indeed. Certainly anything in the 140s. And they play Notre Dame at Barclays Center in Brooklyn. They are 14.5 on the side. Notre Dame rebuilding, retooling after Mike Bray stepped aside after a long and very successful tenure. Looks like 143.5, but like we're saying, whatever it gets to, we'd like it over. But the earlier you get to it, the better. All right. And so now look, because we have, and it's just so ridiculous, all these FCS games, SEC's got to go to a 9-game format. We've got A&M playing Abilene, Alabama playing Chattanooga. And then, We've got FIU, New Mexico State, ULM on the Southern Miss on the schedule as well. So we've got some time to talk about some other topics, and we've got an opening at Mississippi State. We've got an opening at A&M, and we've got Billy Napier on the hot seat. So you want to tackle what do we want to tackle first? Let's talk A&M candidates first. What are you thinking on that one?
Well, I loved how many different media folks attacked Monday's press conferences, all the way from the Detroit Lions to the Clemson Tigers to the Colorado Buffaloes to everyone in between about whether you're interested in Texas A&M. My big picture conversation about this is Texas A&M, other than the paycheck, and don't get me wrong, the paycheck has to be factored in. Is that a top 25 job in this country?
I gotta say it is. Now, top 15, no. Top 25, I mean, you got a rabid fan base, you got great facilities, you got the money, you got 100,000 in the seats, etc. Yeah.
You want to know how many times they finished top 5 nationally? 5.
Oh, I guess 0.
No, but that's all time. That's
Right.
when Bear was there, and when Jackie Sherrill was there,
right,
and Gene Stallings before he went to Alabama was there. So, and Kevin's, I mean, and one of those was Jimbo in the COVID year when they went 9-1. So, I mean, I don't know. I think they're gonna money whip somebody, but here are 2 things that you can bet on. Every Jimmy Sexton client is going to get a raise in the next 6 weeks because he's going to float somebody's name to be either the A&M head coach or the A&M OC head coach in waiting. And in truth, I mean, if you're Dion, you don't want that mess. You're 1 more year at Colorado with your son being as good a quarterback as coming back from picking and choosing. Now, if you mentioned another name, if the wheels come off of Billy Napier, holy buckets, what would Coach Prime do in Gainesville?
Woo, buddy. I've been thinking about it. And let's, before we go there, let's just talk about, okay, Florida's lost. They had the number 3 recruiting class in the country, and so all the Napier apologists had that to hang on. We've lost 3 commits in the last 5 days. Alabama and FSU have jumped us. We're down to number 5. If we lose by 21 plus to Missouri, and we'll get to that in a bit, as I really like Missouri, they're 12.5-point underdog right now on the look-ahead line to FSU. It's a $32 million buyout, which is less than half of what A&M. Now, we don't have oil money, but we got plenty of donors and plenty of money down here. But we did spend $85 million on the football-only facility that got done like a year ago. And we've got a $500 million revamp of the swamp coming up in the next couple of years. But Florida does not like mediocrity. I mean, we gave up more yards in program history last week. I know LSU's got a great offense, but more yards in program history. We've been playing football on Saturdays more than 100 years. The guy's not doing anything right. He's got a losing record. He's in over his head, in my opinion. And so I think if Missouri puts it on us, and if FSU embarrasses us, and we lose another recruit or 2, I think there's a chance where I would have told you a month ago there's 0 chance. I thought once we beat Vanderbilt, I thought back-to-back wins by Vanderbilt would do it, but now I've got renewed hope.
Well, you've got renewed hope for the negative, and it's got to be a strange place for a Florida Gator fan.
I call it Zook mode.
After the Vandy win, I was starting to feel positive. I mean, that's not where you haven't been there in your lifetime.
No, I started feeling negative. I thought the Vandy loss would get him out of there. So,
okay.
Yeah, but if you follow my reverse thinking, I call this Zook mode, wanting to lose for the sacrifice the near future for the long haul.
But who down there are we trusting to make a hire, man? That litany of head coaches, y'all, Zook, Muschamp, McElwain and his affinity for sharks. Napier. I mean, Mullen. And Mullen's name's now resurfaced in Starkville. There's no way that ends well. No possible way that ends well if Dan Mullen decides to go back to Starkville.
I got a name for you on Mississippi State that I think would be great for them. Rich Rod.
Who's the dude? Hey, I'll tell you, Mississippi State. Mississippi State needs to go get Jamie Chadwell from Liberty.
Oh, no. Yeah.
That dude wins. That dude wins football games.
He's not an L collector.
He is no. But man, I'm okay with Rich Rod, but is he old enough? Does he want to recruit? I mean,
he wants to coach so bad and be a head coach that he went to Talladega basically. Or is it called Jacksonville, Alabama? I mean, I know it's across the street.
It is. It's close to Talladega. I drive through there all the time. My wife's parents used to live down on Lake Martin.
Okay.
So I've been through every podunk Alabama town.
Okay.
You can't name one, and I can tell you how to pronounce Aniana and that its rival is Cleveland, Alabama. So I'm good. I'm well versed. I don't know, but this is just going to start the ball rolling on the silly season because. I know we're on the Southeastern 14 network here. There's a lot of talk that Chip Kelly's done. There's a lot of talk of, who once the dominoes start falling because Texas A&M is going to money whip somebody. Yes. I'm talking about walk up and say, here is 10 years, $100 million. And if you get fired, we have just proven we're going to pay it.
Hey, what about Drinkwitz there? What do you
Drinkwitz, hey, I know Kirby is Kirby and Saban is Saban. Drinkwitz is coach of the year in the league, right?
No doubt about it. Should be unanimous, right?
I think so too. Now, I hate how the coach of the year voting, and we saw it this year in Major League Baseball's manager of the year voting. I have been a newspaper sports writer for more than a quarter century now. And voting for coach of the year and manager of the year is like the greatest cop-out for sports writers in the history of the world. It is our admission that we did not see you being as good as you are, but so we failed in the preseason to do our homework. And then now we see that you're 8-2 and ranked number 13 in the country. You know what? He must be doing a hell of a coaching job. Exactly. Because by golly, there's no way we missed it in the preseason. He's a great coach. Eli Drinkwitz, coach of the year.
No doubt about it. And I wonder if he would be an option there. I think Ross Bork wants to make a more splashy hire, but they'll probably get denied a few times and have to revert to a plan C or D. And I'm not so sure he wouldn't be a part of a third or fourth plan, behind a couple of big names.
You know who else will listen?
Give me a hint.
The same guy who listened to Auburn last year. The same guy who listens to
Lane. Oh, of course, Lane. Yeah, of course, Lane will.
Yeah. Every phone call that comes into his office. And he leaves the door open so everybody can hear him talking about what his next job may be.
Yeah, that was so unattractive the way he didn't blow off Auburn. And then didn't even go. I felt like they lost the Egg Bowl because of all those distractions that he wasn't. That was just so lame. But we'll see how he'll handle it if that becomes louder here in the next week, because we got an Egg Bowl on deck next week, and we also have an Iron Bowl. Have you seen the look-ahead line?
If it's anything north of 10, give me a whole bunch of Auburn. Give me a whole bunch of Auburn shares.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it was 10 initially, and then I saw yesterday it had moved to 10.5, and my computer's acting a little slow because I haven't looked since. All right, here we go. So it looks like right now 10.5, Auburn plus 340 on the money line. FSU was minus 10 at Florida. a few days ago. Now they're all the way up to 12.5 for the SEC championship game. Georgia's 4, Alabama plus 140 on the money line. Clemson is. You want to give a guess on Clemson at South Carolina next week?
2.
Clemson minus 7.5, and I think I lean South Carolina along with you right there. Once you give a stab at A&M at LSU.
Ooh, wow. That one's hard to figure.
Right, there's a lot of complexities.
There's just so many variables. But if A&M's at LSU, 24.5.
Only 8.5. I thought 8.5 was small too, because you got to think a lot of these guys have checked out. All right.
Hey, I tell you, you want to talk about a line that could just explode? Let A&M's kids wave the white flag against Abilene this weekend, and 8.5 becomes 16 in a New York second.
Oh, 100%. 100%. So Kentucky has beaten Louisville 4 straight, I think. My magazine, they didn't play in 2020, so at least 4 straight, and they are at Louisville. And for the first time in a long time, Louisville's got the better team. Louisville is 5.5 in that game. Kentucky plus 180, and that is it for rivalry weekend spreads that we have from FanDuel.
Georgia? No Tech, Georgia?
No, which was surprising. Yeah, no Tech, Georgia. All right, so let's get into this week's games, or we can pass on one of the noon Eastern games, that being Southern Miss at Mississippi State. I have no interest in this one, and if you don't, we can pass.
I will say this: if you're an SEC bettor and you want to bet in just about every window of the nooners, this one is at least has an angle to me. Southern Miss has covered 3 straight weeks after a dreadful start to the year. They've won 2 of those 3 games. There's no telling how anybody from Mississippi State's going to react to just the wheels falling off of this entire scenario. So, 14.5 felt too short to me. But then you start thinking, this is Southern Miss's Super Bowl. Mississippi State's Super Bowl is a week from now. You're talking about kids checking out. You're talking about kids calling transfer portals in this day and age. I do not like this game, but if you feel the need to bet an SEC football game in the noon window, I think you could do worse than Southern Miss taking more than 2 touchdowns.
So the covers.com injury report has Will Rogers listed as probable, but I would not take that as the gospel.
Why would that kid want to get on the field for this mess?
Right. Until he's on the field in uniform warming up, I would not, believe that he's going to play. Now, I think he will play in the Egg Bowl next week for sure. All right. So, and did you mention the line? Mississippi State 14.5
right.
at most spots. ULM at Ole Miss 30. Ooh. Yeah, but and I haven't looked at the team total. But I think Ole Miss could score 60 and change. But I haven't even looked at the team total. So we will.
Or Lane Kiffin runs the ball at right tackle, getting ready for an Egg Bowl. He really needs to win.
There's that possibility. Yeah, he does need to win this. They're paying him way too much money to lose to interim head coach Greg Knox, who is taking the interim label for the 3rd time. He was Florida's interim after Mullen got fired for 2 games, went 1-1. He did beat FSU. And then he was the interim when Mullen left for Florida for Mississippi State's bowl game. Now he's the interim again.
You know what we call that? That's the school of hard knocks.
Yes, it is. Yes, indeed, it is. How about we get to a good game like Georgia at Tennessee?
Okay.
And wow, what a performance by Georgia last week. That is no chump change squad that they absolutely blasted, and it was a team that jumped on them 7-0. Georgia answers with 14 straight. Ole Miss answers, makes it 14-all. So it's not like it was a beatdown from the jump. And, man, when you have Ladd McConkey and Bowers healthy, that's a pretty nice combo. I thought McConkey got a little banged up last week. He's not on the injury report. I haven't seen anything about it. He took a hard hit on one of those touchdown catches, but I'm not saying he's banged up for sure or anything. But anyhow,
that
go ahead.
kid's such an overachiever.
Yeah,
I mean, I think we mentioned it 2 weeks ago or something when he was coming back, and it may have been right before they went to the cocktail party. He's from our coverage area. Grew up in the very northern part of North Georgia, and I'm talking about. I mean, he played quarterback, he played free safety, like a whole lot of these kids at not big time high school football programs. He did everything, and I thought to myself, man. I thought he was going to be a Vandy type recruit.
Right.
He's gone to Georgia and he's made himself into an NFL football player.
Yep.
I mean, so God bless that kid. You want to talk about a kid who always accepts the challenge and goes a step beyond. I can't. I almost want to stop myself from speaking, but I can't do that. Just ask my wife. So, the score comps are important here. And I know the home switch around. Georgia stomped a mud hole in Florida. And Florida beat Tennessee. Georgia handled Missouri's best shot. And Missouri stomped a mud hole in Tennessee. I mean, I know Tennessee's a different team at home. Kentucky and Tennessee played a coin flip game. And Georgia stomped a mud hole in Kentucky. I mean, I like a whole lot of games on the board this weekend. And if you want to play this one, I cannot advise you to go any other way but Georgia because I just don't see, man, Georgia's starting to get that look. I mean, and they know they've got so much more to play for. And then we're going to take a step back. And after this weekend, Tennessee, who was preseason number 6 in the country, is going to have the same record as Auburn. I mean, a lot of those dreams have been dashed.
Yeah, and, you're right. Tennessee's different at home. They're undefeated. They're 4-1 ATS, and Georgia has not covered on the road. And this was a game that, like, all year I've been thinking I wanted to be double digits. I'm going to want Tennessee in this game. And I really didn't quit thinking that until last weekend when I saw what Georgia did to Ole Miss. And then I also saw what Missouri did to Tennessee, which made me kind of think, okay, Georgia was still playing good to beat Missouri by 9.
Right.
Whereas, you know what I'm saying? But Missouri proved that they, Missouri's really, really good. And then also, so I'm like you. I thought I was going to want Tennessee in this game. I want nothing to do with Tennessee in this game, and I might play Georgia. I'm not sure. And Thornton, the wide receiver for Tennessee, he's now out for the year. So that's another injury.
McCoy's out for the year.
Yeah.
Their other wide receiver, Joe Milton, needs help on the perimeter. Now, Tennessee runs the ball pretty well, and they'll get some gash plays on you because I think Heupel calls a good game. But there's just too many dudes that are going to show up there in red jerseys. I mean, there's just too many dudes.
Yeah, they've cranked it up a couple of notches, starting with the cocktail party, and when I thought maybe they weren't with the Missouri. Now, I think that was a good performance, even though they didn't cover. I think Georgia's in high gear, and I think, well, we'll see. Alabama might have something for them.
One more thing about Georgia's high gear, and I think this is fair. They had a first-year quarterback and a first-year offensive coordinator when Mike Bobo replaced Todd Monken, and both those guys in September were getting a whole lot of message board heat. Both those guys were. But now they figured out kind of, okay, here is what he does well. Here's what he likes to do. Let's put him in these types of situations. And you're right. with Bowers running down the seam and McConkey out there running around on the perimeter, that's hard to handle, brother.
And by the way, updated Heisman odds, and I mentioned this because I know I've mentioned it a few times that I've got a Carson Beck. I've got a 25-1 ticket and a 30-1 ticket. But Bo Nix right now is the -110 chalk. Penix at +370. Daniels at +370. Marvin Harrison Jr. +600. Beck is next at 35-1, and Milroe is at 50-1, and Jordan Travis 60-1, and everybody else is 120 or longer. But Beck's got this spotlight game and the Alabama spotlight game. If Bo Nix lays an egg in the Pac-12 championship, no, stranger things have happened. We shall see.
Penix is your insurance policy, because if Bo Nix is going to lay an egg, then Penix jumps him.
Oregon State is going to pimp slap Washington this week, and Penix is going to be out of contention, in my opinion. We shall see. All right. Well, we talked Auburn basketball, and I don't know if you have a play against New Mexico State and the Fighting Jerry Kills, but regardless of whether you have a play or not, my team is not on a winning streak. Auburn, 3 in a row, both straight up and ATS, and prior to that, gave Ole Miss a very tough game and only didn't cover by a half point. What say you? I mean, that was a pimp slap in Fayetteville. Wow, that was ugly.
Yeah, it was ugly. Hey, we were talking about hot seats. That's another one that the wheels could completely fall off, and they walk Pittman to the curb. I think it's important. It's a little after lunch on Thursday Eastern time. Diego
Pavia
is the best quarterback who's going to be in the building for New Mexico State, and so they're 8-3 and 9-2 against the number with 8 in a row covers. I mean, they are a very good football team. And one of those losses was an inexplicable season opening loss to UMass.
And an ATSL for this guy in week 0.
And an inexplicable loss because they showed up in like camo or military garb, and UMass got ticked off and punched him in the face, and they never recovered. But looking at this for my gambling newsletter, a lot of media outlets out there in New Mexico are reporting Diego is questionable.
I just saw that.
And now he finished and played in their win and cover against Western Kentucky last week. And so he played the whole game, but you also then have to ask yourself, do you put a guy who may even be 80% possible, knowing you've already qualified for your conference championship game if you're New Mexico State?
Oh, and they got that next week.
Yes. So
I could see him not playing maybe.
So yeah, I mean, this is one. If the number I saw,
24, most books right now.
Bet Online was 24. If you get confirmation that Diego's playing, this is the perfect spot for this to be a 13-10 New Mexico State halftime lead. Auburn doesn't want to do anything of any type of showing your cards. You've got an opportunity. You're welcoming Alabama at home. You can break their hearts. You can do a whole lot of things in the first game that, knock on wood, may be competitive in a handful of years. This one is, even for Hugh Freeze, cards close to the vest. But if Diego is going to show up in street clothes, there's no way that number goes from 24 to 34.
Oh yeah, just to give our listeners an idea how good this guy is. So he's got 2,257 passing yards, 19-6 TDI&T ratio. He has 705 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns, 5.6 yards per carry average. So, I mean, their offense is all about him and everything that he does with his arm and his legs. And as Jay noted, I mean, they have been a spread covering machine. Anything else on that one before we move on?
If Diego plays, I I take the points. If he doesn't, I would probably look about whatever New Mexico State's under is, because
Right.
Auburn's defense will suffocate them because their
Yep.
offense is completely built around that kid.
Yep. All right. We have two pretty, or two of the SEC games against each other, other than Georgia and Tennessee, are both under the lights. 7:30 Eastern, Kentucky at South Carolina, and most books have Kentucky at 1.5. I actually made South Carolina a 2.5 point favorite. So I'm sort of leaning that way. They're 4-1 straight up, 3-2 ATS at home, and perhaps most important, 4-6 straight up. Um, and therefore they got to beat Kentucky and they got to beat Clemson, but they get both of them at home. And so, Shane Beamer, they want to go to a bowl game. Now, Kentucky 2-1 straight up and ATS on the road this year, but they have lost 4 of their last 5 games, both straight up and ATS. And the only cover, 24-3 win at Mississippi State when Will Rogers was out, and the Bulldogs had just zero offense. Now, they did play Tennessee tough, but they got blown out by Bama, pretty much got blown out, at least toward the end, by Missouri, and they really got blown out by Georgia. Yeah, I think I like South Carolina. I'm not saying it's like going to be an aggressive play from a amount, money management standpoint, but yeah, I lean South Carolina, and I'm probably going to be on it for a little bit. What about you?
I'm the same way. It's not a full blown. It's not even my favorite game on this board. I think we're going to talk about that one next. But it is. It's in our conversation points of the only way to play is South Carolina here. They got the better quarterback. They've got more motivation because Kentucky's already in a bowl, and you're right. For Clemson to mean it, as much as South Carolina wants Clemson to mean. Now, it's going to mean something either way, but for it to be also about bowl eligibility, which is important, especially for the coaching staff, because what that means in terms of offseason momentum, in terms of practice, in terms of, hey, I know we didn't have even a down year, we go to the Liberty Bowl. Or, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that I think have merit. Stoops and them, they look like they're waving the white flag, and you got to wonder when the Davis kid is going to start making some business decisions.
Yeah, and it's Spencer Rattler and Xavier Legette are looking to up their draft stock, and they've been doing a pretty good job of it with the chemistry they've created this year. And what would have been for Rattler this year if Juice Wells had stayed healthy, but that was not meant to be. But it would be impressive nonetheless if they go from 2-6 and win 4 in a row, and especially get a back-to-back win over Clemson. Boy, that'll get anybody. I'm not implying South Carolina fans are on Beamer, but if they are, the fact you beat Clemson back-to-back, all that potential criticism from any fan is erased with back-to-back wins over Clemson. So, all right, we don't love it, but we both like South Carolina. And let me guess where you're going with your favorite pick of the board, and we happen to share it. Actually, he didn't even tell me in the green room, but I know exactly where he's going, and that is for Missouri to pimp slap my Gators. Go right ahead.
I actually, my favorite play in those two games, in that game, is the over. Yes.
Well, I like the over too,
because I think Florida offensively has found a couple of things with some dudes, and they may get to 21. And I know Missouri is going to get
40
real
plus
close to 40.
Minimum.
Yes.
Minimum.
Now that plays into me agreeing with you about the 11.5, 12.5, whatever else. But a couple of freak turnovers. The Cook kid is not taking care of the ball as well in the second half of the year as he did in the first half of the year.
We don't create turnovers.
That's true. I would defer to you, especially about the side, as long as you tell me your heart's not actually rooting against Napier.
I am.
but you follow them a heck of a lot closer than most people. And but no, my favorite play is what last I saw was like 58.5.
Looks like 50. There's a 58.5 at Bet Online, but
There you go. There you
all the
go.
other books are 59.
So
Just
hey,
completely being honest, the best line is at Bet Online. So
find your good prices, people. Find your good prices.
Yes, and Bet Online has Missouri at 11, whereas there are other books that are at 11 and a half, like Circa, and even South Point in Vegas is at 12. So you want to go to Bet Online and take Missouri and the over. And as for the play on Missouri, some of the reasons I like it are that Florida's 1-3 both straight up and ATS in 4 road games. They lost by 17 at LSU, by 19 at Kentucky, by 13 at Utah, and the only win in spread cover on the road, they were actually down 37-27 at South Carolina with less than 5 minutes and had a 4th and 10 play on that drive, but they did rally and win. But that's the only. And look here, 2 weeks ago, Florida lost to Arkansas at home. The game prior to that for the Razorbacks, they lost at home 7-3 to Mississippi State. The game after that, Auburn went into their house and beat them 48-10. And what Florida do? They lost outright 2 of them at home. So that, but like you said about the over, Graham Mertz is balling, man. 18-2 TDINT ratio, had a rushing touchdown last week. Pearsall and Trey Wilson are playing terrific, and their stats indicate that. And both running backs are healthy, running good, running hard. The offense was not a problem last week. The defense, on the other hand, gave up more yards in program history. So my favorite is actually Missouri minus 11, but I am also on the over. The over has hit in 6 straight for the Gators, and the last 4 combined scores for Florida 87, 75, 63, and 80. And Florida's dead last in America in giving up explosive plays of 40 yards or more. They've given up 21 of those. Missouri has 14 of those offensively to rank 28th nationally. I like the over and Mizzou. All right. Well, we know we're now. This is a high total for Georgia State and LSU, and Georgia State has a good quarterback in Darren Granger, and they had a lot of shootouts early in the year. They had a 41-25 game, had a 42-35 game, had a 41-24 game, had a 44-27 game with Georgia Southern, but last 2 weeks they've only scored 4. They've actually lost by 42-14 scores exactly, and at home, granted to James Madison and App State. But Georgia State's offense not functioning like they have been all year the last 2 weeks. But that doesn't scare you, does it?
Nope.
So let's see what Bet Online has. It's been in the 71-72 range. As I try to find it here, feel free to fill in the blanks.
Well, because, hey, even if it's in the 71-72 range, Jaden Daniels may not take his shoulder pads off till they're up 56-0.
Heisman stats.
Knowing what you've got, everybody talking. It's not like you got anything else to play for. The whole place chit-chatting. They were completely content to get real close to 80. What'd they beat Grambling? Like
82 to
7,
10, I think, or 7. Yeah.
I mean, so and there's got to be a certain amount of loyalty. When something has been this good to you all year long, I mean, you can't break. When you were in high school and you knew you were going to break up with that girl, you couldn't break up with her before Christmas because she'd been so good to you leading up to Christmas. So get her the Christmas present and then break up with her before Valentine's Day. Do that
right before New Year's Eve. Right before New Year's Eve.
Yeah, and do that because that's the nicer play. It's better play. I owe this to Jaden Daniels. Jaden
Yeah.
Daniels has paid for my son's first year of college. I owe this to Jaden Daniels.
Bet Online has a total at 72.5. We like the over. So a lot of on my accounts, a lot of times the player props won't pop up until you know within an hour or two of kickoff. Thankfully, I noticed the player props for Florida LSU about 20 minutes before kickoff. Ricky Pearsall's receiving yards, over. Malik Neighbors' receiving yards, over. Jaden Daniels' rushing yards was only 56.5. He went over. I was watching SEC in 60 last night.
He
He
went
went
over
over.
on 2 carries. I mean, on two
Well,
different carries.
oh, right. But I mean, like, the 85-yarder wasn't until like mid second quarter, I don't think. But he got it, and I looked at it. He went out of bounds with 14:05 left in the second quarter, and he'd already hit the over on the rushing yards. And so now I did lose LSU's team total over in the first half and the over in the first half, but I hit Florida's team total in the first half over, and I hit Florida's team total for the game over. I hit LSU's team total for the game over, and I hit the main over. So it was still a very
Well,
successful venture.
then LSU Florida, and we were remiss for not talking about this last week. They paid for Mama Edwards' birthday trip. She celebrated a happy birthday last week. We
Yep.
should have celebrated and maybe even sang.
Yeah. Oh, we did sing. We did sing, but not us, not you and I. That's probably a good thing. So 72.5 at Bet Online. Get in on the over because it seems to be creeping up even more. And hopefully Darren Granger and that offense for Georgia State. Hey, look, any offense is struggling. LSU's defense is normally the remedy that works quite well. All righty. So we need to get to non SEC games. Actually, I think there was one SEC game left, but I think it was not
Alabama,
covered.
Chattanooga. We didn't talk
Yeah,
about
yeah,
Alabama,
yeah. We're
but
on.
and I'm in Chattanooga, and there's no way to play it because Nick Saban has perennially been happy to win these games 45-3, and the number I saw is 44.
Oh, there's a number out already. Okay.
So
Yeah, no, nothing from me. Um, so you had some Bengals Baltimore thoughts for tonight. If our
well,
listeners hear it,
you know me, I like quarterbacks. I value quarterback play. I think both of these teams are motivated, and they're going to see defenses that were not as good as they were last week. I know the Ravens are pretty aggressive defensively, and the Bengals are a complete football team too, because that division is just completely salty. But neither of them are the Steelers and the Browns. And I think both of these realize the desperation involved. So I think there's going to be a lot more effort and preparation put into this game than most of your Thursday night games, because I think the number I saw was like 15-4 over the last 15-4-1 over the last 20 Thursday night games have gone under on the NFL. But you've got two quarterbacks. Burrow's finally getting healthy. You've got a whole lot of playmakers on the perimeter with Jamar Chase and Mark Andrews with the Ravens. The number I saw on Bet Online was 46.5. I think it goes over that. And I also think as long as it stays north of 3, I think the Bengals are the play. Because I trust Joe Burrow more than I trust Lamar Jackson.
yeah, I agree on the over and these primetime games, not just Thursdays, but Sunday and Monday. I believe they've hit under 11 in a row. But hey, I had the under for Jacksonville and New Orleans, and that one flew over. So I will buck the trend in this situation. All the same reasons as you. And I also like Baltimore's team total to go over 24.5 because in the last 4 games, they have scored 31, 37, 31, and 38, and they scored 27 on the Bengals back in week 2. All right. My next game, let's go to Pullman, Washington, Friday night. And Colorado has lost 4 in a row, but they've covered 3 in a row. Certainly no shame in a walk-off field goal, 34-31 loss to red hot Arizona last week, and Washington State's in even more of a funk, and they're a 4.5-point home favorite. Washington State's lost 6 in a row, 1-5 ATS in that stretch. The only cover they lost by 14 is a 19.5-point dog at Oregon. And when they got off to a 4-0 start, Cam Ward, their star QB, 13 touchdown passes without an interception in the 6-game slide, 7-5 TDI&T ratio, and the Cougars are 112 in the nation in pass defense. I think Shador has a big game. Give me Colorado plus 4.5, and I also am okay with a little touch of the money line. I think they've got a great chance to win outright.
Depending on when this thing gets posted, I hope it gets done in time. The wrong team is favored tonight in the ACC when Boston College goes to Pitt. Boston College is getting 3. So if you want to play it on the money line, you could probably get it plus 180 or somewhere in that range. But Boston College is already qualified for the postseason. Pitt is done. They're 2-8. And you also then have to realize how many football fans in the city of Pittsburgh are going to show up at Heinz Field when the Ravens and the Bengals are playing on Thursday Night Football. It's going to be crickets. And the one thing Pittsburgh can kind of do is run the football. And I'm sorry, they can throw the football. Boston College is top 20 in the country, 18th or 19th overall against the pass. And so I just other than the trepidation of how often that you look at a line and you go, that doesn't make any sense, and then it ends up making sense. Boston College has got way more skin in this game, and far and away the strongest matchup advantage on Thursday night tonight on ESPN.
All right, I'm going to go into the Sun Belt for my next play, and I like Georgia Southern in the minus 7 or fewer. I like it. I believe it's 6.5, if I'm not mistaken. But anyhow, they are 5-0, straight up 4-1 ATS at home. They are hosting ODU, and Georgia Southern has won their home games by 17 over Georgia State, by 10 over ULM, by 10 over Coastal Carolina, by 14 over UAB, and by 34 over the Citadel. By my math, that is double digits wins in all 5 home games, and they have a quarterback in Davis Brin who's playing pretty good football. He's thrown for almost 3,000 yards. So I'm going to go with Georgia Southern minus 6.5 to ODU. You got any more, Jay?
I've got a couple more because I liked a whole lot of national games more than I liked the games that fall under the Southeastern 14 umbrella. And I'll move very quickly. One, UNLV is getting 3.5 to 4 over an Air Force team that has completely fallen off the radar. They've lost their last 2. They are dead last in the country at 86 passing yards a game. UNLV is in the top half in defending the run, and they've got an offense that is averaging a little more than 36 a game. And Air Force can't keep that pace. They just can't keep that pace. The other one, we talked about Boston College. Syracuse, Georgia Tech, the total is 53. Georgia Tech is the second worst rushing defense in the country. Syracuse has averaged right around 200 rushing yards over its last 3 games. And Georgia Tech's offense is pesky. Both of these teams are 5-5. But Georgia Tech, we know what looms ahead of them on Thanksgiving weekend. If they're going to get to a bowl, they have got to win this football game. But they can't stop a running faucet. So they're going to have to score points. Over 53 in Syracuse, Georgia Tech.
Good news. BetOnline has Georgia Southern at 6, and I'll look up that total at BetOnline. Did you say didn't you have one more?
That was it. Syracuse, Georgia Tech, and UNLV getting points against Arizona.
Yep, and I am looking. Okay, here we go. UNLV +3. They're on an incredible ATS run as
Yes, they
well.
are.
Yeah, and I mean, we can just say this is the best UNLV team in Barry Odom's first year in a generation. I
And
mean,
think what he always did as a defensive coordinator, and then at Missouri, they stopped the run.
mhm.
And they're looking at a place they could get it to 8 or 9 wins, 10 wins, and who knows what kind of. I mean, that's Barry Odom being the toast of the strip.
Oh yeah, and there's worse places to be the toast.
What he said. What he said. There's only one of us married, Brian, so I can't really get too many. I can't back myself into too many corners.
And I found the total at Bet Online for Syracuse, Georgia Tech. It is indeed 53.5. And Jay likes the over. All right. I got one more tidbit to throw out. I think I mention the Pacers and Wizards overs, how
Yes,
they've been
last week it's
okay.
just a machine.
Yeah. So the Pacers don't play tonight. I'm nearly certain they play tomorrow night. And as long as it's 245 or fewer, bet the over. Now, Washington did have one under, but they got back to their overways. It was either last night or the night before. I think it was last night. So yeah, Indiana Pacer overs are still a thing. Get the Auburn over tonight. FAU in college basketball. I did not lay it on, I think it was Monday, because they were laying like 30 and they beat Eastern Michigan by 40 plus. And Alabama, I think you need to take Alabama team totals over. They've scored over 100, I believe, every game. And they play somebody bad in in-state game tomorrow. I'm not against Alabama team totals over or even laying the. If you watched Alabama play, they got some talent.
Yeah, they do.
Man,
Now, I damn sure don't want Nate Oates watching my kids, but they got some dudes who can shoot it now.
yeah, they do. So there's a few hoops tips. Tell them about Jay's plays that'll be going out. Email here in a few hours.
Jay's Plays is the afternoon email through the Times Free Press, offering anywhere from at least two and many more gambling plays for that night and into the weekend. The numbers we tabulated. My best play of the day is in 13 months is 60 games over 500. We're up plus 88 units, and that is with tonight. And you may know the answer to this. I had a preseason prop bet on Ronald Acuna to win the MVP at plus 850.
It gets announced tonight.
That gets announced tonight.
Is it a given that he's getting it? Is it for sure?
It's not entirely for sure, but I'm driving to New York City to have an argument with the commissioner of the league if it does not work out, because he deserves it. Now he deserves it. Right, it isn't like just like fingers crossed and hoping we get a Cincinnati over Duke in the Duke's Mayo Bowl upset type of number. Yeah. No, dude went 41 homers, 73 steals, was second in the NL in RBIs and almost scored 150 runs for a team that won 105 games. I mean, dude should win it.
Plus 850, nice, very nice.
But we just can't. I don't want to jinx anything.
Right. All right. So before we get out of here, on a 1 to 10 scale, 10 being the most irate, where were you hour after lunch on Monday and a certain particular person who coaches in the Atlanta area was not pink slipped? Where were you on a 1 to 10 scale?
I was more upset a week ago, to be honest, because I thought that was more coaching malfeasance. And this one, it tells me it feels like they're going to let this run the course. And in some ways, I'll offer this as a cautious reminder. This is not an endorsement of Arthur Smith.
Not on this show. Not on this show. We're not going to have one of those.
But what happens if Bill Belichick is made available?
I don't think I want Bill.
I I can understand that conversation, but what happens when you look around and I mean, other than Josh McDaniels, which nobody really wants to go work for Mark Davis anyway because he looks like Jim Carrey's character from Dumb and Dumber. So but right now, I think everybody's kind of slow walking these mediocre dudes. I mean, Brandon Staley's still got a job with San Diego, and he's got way too much talent for them to be middling. I
What what
mean,
what's the Lions OC's name? Ben Johnson, I think. I
sounds
like.
like.
I think I like the Lions OC. That's who I want.
Would you want Bieniemy? He's the OC in Washington, and
I'm not.
he turned Sam Howell into a much better football player.
I'm not against Bieniemy, but I think Ben Johnson's the guy I want. I like that Detroit offense the last 2 years. I think it's been outstanding.
I think on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the most irate, I would be curious. You would be that little red character from the Disney movie Inside Out who shoots fire straight out of the top of his head. If Arthur Blank went and hired Billy Napier to be the Atlanta Falcons head coach.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, that would be a million on the 1 to 10 scale of irateness. Easily. Easily a million. All right. Another play that I did not get to, but I'm not against, and you could even do it in a teaser if you like with Georgia Southern, is Jacksonville State at 8.5 at home. All right. Any parting shots? Last words? What you got?
Signal Mountain Girls middle school basketball covers tonight against Howard.
There you go. All right.
And if you find that line, then by God, you got a problem.
All right, for Jay Greeson, I'm Brian Edwards. Thanks for joining. Thanks to you listeners. We had the most views of whatever we are on, like our 7th or 8th show. Please spread the word if you enjoy it, and let your friends know. Subscribe to Southeastern 14's YouTube channel. Go make all your bets at Bet Online. And another edition of Bets and Ball Games with Edwards and Greeson is over, and we are over and out. Have a great weekend. Best of luck.